folktale about stone soup. A hungry soldier tricks some stingy villagers into making him a big pot of soup. The truth is that stone soup was invented here in China, and without any sly tricks. Here is the real story. It all began when I hired those troublesome Chang brothers to help me on my fishing boat. Nice boys, but lazy, and I'm sorry to say, somewhat stupid. The only good thing is I could get away with not paying them very much. Even with 3 of them, I did most of the work, and I kept the hardest job for myself. I steered the boat. Stop and check. Ask and answer questions. What kind of person is the narrator? Use the illustrations and what you have read to find the answer. One summer day, after a full morning of fishing, I decided to stop early for lunch. "Time to eat, boys," I yelled. "Dock the boat." After the Chang brothers got the boat tied up, my work really began. Those boys were too dull to know what to do. "Ting, gather firewood. Pong, prepare the cooking pot and clean the fish. Kuwai, get some fresh water." "The cooking pot isn't here," interrupted Ting, the oldest, a troublemaker. He always talked back to his elders. "What do you mean the pot isn't here? Where is it?" They looked at one another and shrugged. "You boys forgot the cooking pot? How could you?" I asked. "It's your pot," said Ting. "You should have remembered to bring it." Those stupid potato heads. What were we to do now? Pong, the middle one, and the most well-mannered of the 3, tried to apologize. "Sorry, Uncle. We left in a hurry this morning, and we—" Kuwai, the youngest, interrupted. "We don't really need a pot to cook lunch." He whispered something to his brothers. Kuwai is always full of silly ideas. "How are we supposed to cook lunch?" I asked. "With a hole in the ground?" Those crazy boys must have thought I meant it. No sooner had those words left my mouth than they started digging a hole in the sandy beach. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Cooking lunch, of course," said Kuwai. He began to line the hole with banana leaves. Meanwhile, Ting and Pong started a huge fire next to the hole. "Now we need some stones," said Kuwai. "For what?" I asked. Kuwai didn't answer. He picked up a nearby rock and held it to his ear. "This is a fish stone," he announced. Then he threw the rock in the fire. "Come now," I said. "Even you can't be foolish enough to believe—" "Shh," Ting interrupted, holding a stone to his ear. "I need to hear what it is telling me. Aha! This is a fine vegetable stone." He tossed his rock into the fire too. I tried listening to a couple of stones. I didn't hear a thing. The hunger must have gone to their heads. "If you're so clever, what kind is this?" I handed a stone to Pong. He listened for a moment. "Aha! Uncle, you are brilliant. You picked out a yummy egg stone." He pitched my stone into the fire. I had no idea what he was blabbering about, but by this time I was hungry enough to eat anything, even stones. "We need something to carry water from the river and to eat the soup with," said Kuwai. "Oh, Uncle," said Pong, "could you use your mighty axe to make some bowls from bamboo stalks?" "I grumbled. "I have to do all the work, as always." But it was true that none of them could be trusted with my sharp axe. With a few quick chops, I made 4 bowls from a thick stalk. The boys used them to fill the hole with water. I shook my head at them. "Now we have a puddle and a fire. How do you expect to get the water over the fire?" I asked. I shook my head at them. Now we have a puddle and a fire. How do you expect to get the water over the fire? I asked. Leave that to us, said Ting. Uncle, you made the best bowls in the village with nothing more than an axe, said Pong. Could you use your graceful knife to make some chopsticks to go with them? I cried. You lazy boys want me to do all the work. Nevertheless, I carved out some chopsticks. Unlike the Chang brothers, I wasn't stupid enough to eat hot stones with my fingers. When I finished, I gave each boy a pair of my skillfully carved chopsticks. How long does it take the stones to cook? I worried that the stones might burn like potatoes. Then I couldn't believe what those crazy boys did next. With long sticks, Ting picked a stone out of the hot fire, and instead of offering it to his elder first, he held it before Kauai and Pong. They didn't eat it, though. They whispered to it, You, you, fish, 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 and blew on it. Then Ting dropped the stone into the hole. Sploosh! I yelled. Bubbles of steam shot off the stone as it sank to the bottom. The steam carried a wonderful fish smell. I saw pieces of fish floating in the soup. Those boys had told the truth. It really was a fish stone. My stomach purred like a kitten. Stop and check. Ask and answer questions. Look at the illustration on page 286. Why are there pieces of fish floating in the soup? Kauai gently stirred the soup. This is turning into a tasty soup. If only we had a little salt, it would be a soup fit for a schoolmaster. Ting, I said, get the salt off the boat. It's your salt, you get it, Ting said rudely. I was too hungry to teach him good manners, so I went to get the salt. As I returned with the salt, Ting picked up the second stone and held it before his brothers. Kai, kai, kai! They whispered the word for vegetables 3 times and blew on the stone. Ting dropped it into the soup. Shoosh! More steam leapt into the air. Surprisingly, I smelled vegetables. The aroma was so yummy, my stomach growled like an angry tiger. Kauai stirred the soup again and sprinkled in a little salt. This is a wonderful vegetable stone. If only we had a little sesame oil, this would be a soup fit for an emperor, said Kauai. Just a moment, I cried. I'll be right back with the sesame oil. When I returned with the sesame oil, Ting was holding up the last stone. All 3 boys yelled, Done, done, done. Egg, egg, egg. Then they each blew hard on the stone, one at a time. Why are you shouting at that stone, you potato heads? I asked. Egg stones don't hear very well, said Ting. He dropped the stone into the soup. Shoom! The hot stone brought the soup to a wild boil. I couldn't believe it when I saw threads of egg float to the top. A luscious fragrance filled the air. Even the monkeys came closer to get a whiff. Kauai drizzled in the sesame oil. More delectable smells. By now, I was sure the sounds from my hungry stomach could be heard back in the village. Finally, Ting did something right. He filled one of the bamboo bowls with soup and served me, his elder, first. I could hardly wait to taste it. I lifted the steaming bowl to my lips and took a sip. How chee, how chee. Tastes good, tastes good. I must tell you that I have never tasted such a wonderful soup. The fish from the fish stone was tender and fresh. The wild mushrooms and onions from the vegetable stone were flavorful. The threads of egg from the egg stone were cooked just right. Thanks to the bowls and chopsticks I had made, now the boys could enjoy the soup too. The rest of the afternoon, they were happy and even worked a little harder. Not harder than me, of course. From that day on, I always carried rocks in my pockets and told everyone the secret of making stone soup. I even demonstrated how to whisper to fish and vegetable stones, and how to yell at egg stones. But the truth is, I still haven't had time to make it. You know, I work too hard already. And that, my friends, is how I invented the real stone soup. I don't know how people ended up with that silly old folktale. Stop and check. Summarize. How did the brothers make stone soup? Tell the events from the story in order.